Okay, it is Wednesday, March 5th. We had a historic night on yesterday's slate in the NBA. A lot of news in the NFL. Big Kyrie Irving update. This is the Early Game Podcast. Listen to the show in the mornings on your commute, whenever and wherever, so you can be a part of today's sports conversations. Let's go. Okay, so, as I said, let's start out with yesterday's slate. And on that slate was our dear friend LeBron James. Last night, the Lakers took on the Pelicans, and the reason why this game was noteworthy was because LeBron James came into the night 1 point shy of 50,000. He was going to be the first player ever in NBA history to reach 50,000 points. He hit his first shot. It was a three-pointer. So he is now the first player ever to reach 50,000. He finished with 34, and the Lakers won 39-21. They're now second in the West. We'll get to LeBron and back to LeBron in 1 second, but man, I think this Lakers team is for real. I've spoken about how a lot of the top teams in the NBA right now have pretender written all over them. And when I say pretender, I mean they don't seem to have the chops to make deep playoff runs. The Cavs, the Thunder. I think the Thunder could prove me wrong. But until they do, until they can make a deep playoff run, they've had good years the last couple years. So until they can make a deep playoff run, I'm not going to believe in them. That being said, with LeBron James and Luka Doncic now playing great basketball, and it can only go up from here. The chemistry will only increase from here. This team can win the finals. And if they keep it up at this rate, they'll be my pick to win the finals going into the playoffs. That's how good this team is, and that's how well constructed, besides for the center position, that is how well constructed this team is. If you look back at LeBron James and the players he's been paired with, the teams he's been put on, his best pairing so far in his career is Luka Doncic. I'm talking about between Kyrie Irving, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, and that was a great pairing, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. That actually was complementary to each other. And part of the dynamic that I think that this works so well for the Lakers is that LeBron is not ultimately the 1A on this team. And I think that everyone kind of knows that. Yes, he dropped 34 last night. Had a great night. But deep down, everybody, I think that the feeling, at least my feeling is, I'm not even just saying this, my feeling is that this is Luka Doncic's team. I really feel that in my heart of hearts. And so now the Lakers are where they want to be. Rising. It's March. About another month left in the season, month and a half. And they are where they want to be heading as we get close to playoff time. Also on last night's slate, the Warriors, Steph Curry and the Warriors visited Madison Square Garden. Knicks played well early on, but the Warriors ended up winning 114-102. And the story from this game is Steph doesn't lose. He's only lost one time in Madison Square Garden over his whole career. And that the Knicks cannot beat good teams. Now look, they didn't have Karl-Anthony Towns last night. I won't be, as a Knicks fan, I will not be concerned until they're fully healthy and still not performing. They had Mitch Robinson back last night, but they were without Karl-Anthony Towns. It clearly showed. The interior defense was not there for them last night. They were getting killed on backdoor cuts, not an X's and O's podcast. Jimmy Butler played great. And so the Knicks have what to figure out here. They have, talking about the Lakers and a month and a half left, the Knicks have now about a month and a half to figure things out, to get healthy. Make sure Karl-Anthony Towns is healthy. And the Warriors are looking good heading into their playoff push. And so that was those were the notable games last night in the NBA. We move on to the NHL here. And a tough loss for the Devils last night. We'll just get into it quickly. They were down 3-1. They came back 3-3. But then Thomas Harley for the Stars scored with 3 seconds left in the game, under 5 seconds left. And the Devils have been in a bit of a tailspin these last 2 or so months. They looked great early on, but this Metropolitan Division has been fascinating. Washington, Carolina, New Jersey are 1, 2, and 3. Rangers are 6 points back of the Devils for that third spot in the Metro. So the Rangers all of a sudden are coming on a little bit here. And so we'll see. It's going to be a fun last month and a half to the season, but things are starting to take shape a little more. And the fascinating part about the NHL playoff race is that you have the Rangers who by the skin of their teeth right now are in a playoff spot. They have a tiebreaker over Detroit, which puts them in. Boston is 4 spots back of that wild card spot. So when's the last time we didn't see Boston in the playoffs? Montreal's out. The Islanders are out. Pittsburgh's out. Pittsburgh is the 9th seed is 7 back of the wild card. So we're seeing a lot of mainstays in the NHL playoff right now out or on the bubble. So we will see what happens over this last month and a half. But the Devils could be a team to watch who have not been playing well. They need to turn it around so they are not on the outside looking in here come playoff time. Okay. Let's move on. We're going to go to the NFL now. We had a bunch of NFL. It's a jam-packed day. It was a jam-packed day with stories to talk about. And the first thing that we're going to talk about today in the NFL is Saquon Barkley agreeing to an extension. I found this to be very funny. So Pat McAfee goes on his show and he teases this big announcement. I thought for sure Aaron Rodgers was going to jump on and for the second time announce what team it will be his next team on the Pat McAfee show. That was the vibe AJ Hawk and Pat McAfee were giving me when they were teasing this big announcement that they had. Lo and behold, the big announcement was Saquon Barkley agreeing to a 2-year extension worth $41.2 million. You know, you look at this. You look at Saquon Barkley. He was not unsuccessful with the Giants. I don't want to use... That's not the word I want to use. He never fully tapped into what he was capable of with the Giants for whatever reason. Whether that was injury, whether that was the pieces that the Giants had on their line, their offensive play calling, all the above, probably. It is astonishing to see, A, what he did with the Eagles this past season, and B, this is the epitome of pain, suffering, anguish for Giants fans. The second Saquon moves on to their division rival for pennies on the dollar, no less at first. He goes in there, dominates, signs a massive extension. Massive extension. I don't want to make this about the Giants. We'll get to the Giants in 1 second. I need to, attack this angle. But good for the Eagles. They have the running back position secured for the next 3 years. Yeah, he was still on contract for this year. They have the running back position secured for the next 3 years with a player who is capable of being the best running back in football over those 3 years. It seems like a slam dunk to me. We can get into the Eagles soon, but there is this psychology to how you run back a team post Super Bowl. There's much less pressure, especially in bringing back your guys. But the Eagles, I think, smartly made another 2-year commitment to Saquon. And Saquon now is shushing all the running back haters. You can be a successful running back later on in your career on your second contract. And you can even earn an additional extension after that. Good for Saquon. I think he will continue being in MVP conversations. Look, hand up, I was totally wrong about Saquon. It's not that I thought he was bad. I couldn't fathom how much he was, relatively speaking, performing under his expectations with the Giants. I couldn't believe it. He was as close to a bust, in my mind, as you could get while still being a great player. But with the expectations that he came into the NFL with, he never quite lived up to that with the Giants. And I thought to myself, and I vocalized, that I never thought he would. And it was a lesson for me to learn. Sometimes, even if you're a running back, after your first contract, sometimes the situation you're in is so dysfunctional, hinders your talent so much that all it takes is going to a team that can complement you with with the best offensive line in football, one of the best, great coaching, a great offensive coordinator, and you can excel. And not only excel, but you can be the only non-quarterback that year to be nominated for an MVP. Good for Saquon. As I said, we'll come back to the Giants. I don't know how you have more of a catastrophic failure than Saquon. Anybody who said they should not have re-signed him, for him, yeah, he should not have re-signed. For you, as Giants fans, this should hurt you that they didn't re-sign him. There was no reason not to. Good for him. He probably reignited his Hall of Fame playing career. Do you think if he would have kept up at the pace he was playing with the Giants, the production he was playing with the Giants, he would have been able to make the Hall of Fame? I'm not so sure. I'm not a Hall of Fame expert. You could kill me in the comments if I'm wrong that he wouldn't have been a Hall of Famer. Any Giants fans I know, please let me know. If he would have been able to make the NFL Hall of Fame had he stayed with the Giants. We are now talking about a guy who put himself back in the generational player conversation in one season. He obviously needs to keep it up, don't get me wrong, but we have no reason to believe he won't. Good for Saquon, good for the Eagles. Bad for the Giants. Okay, let's move on here. We have a couple more NFL stories. So the Bears and Ben Johnson began their rebuild, we can say. I don't want to say rebuild, but he definitely needs to make over parts of the team, and the offensive line is one of the big parts of that team. So they reportedly traded for Jonah Jackson. No trades can be official until the start of the league season. Courtney Cronin, in an article for ESPN, the overhaul of the Bears' offensive line began just over a week before the start of the NFL's free agency period. The Bears are in the process of sending a 2025 sixth-round pick to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for guard Jonah Jackson, multiple sources told ESPN. And look, these are the exact moves you need to make if you're Ben Johnson. Any interview you hear Ben Johnson asked what he will change with the Bears, he says, we need to improve our lines. We need to improve the offensive line, and we need to give Caleb Williams proper protection. And so here we have a guy, Jonah Jackson, played 4 seasons under Ben Johnson with the Lions. And so Ben Johnson gets a familiar face with Ben Johnson. Excuse me. Ben Johnson gets a familiar face with Jonah Jackson. He will need all the help he can get to protect Jonah Jackson here and improve the offensive line. In my mind, Ben Johnson has about a season now to wipe Caleb Williams' memory of everything that happened this past season in his rookie year, and to make sure that he has the right time, space, and weapons to be good in his sophomore season. And so this is a good start. This is a good start. Continuity for Ben Johnson and one more weapon at the offensive line position who will provide protection for Caleb Williams. Everyone can agree here that it's going to be best for football for Caleb Williams to be good, for Ben Johnson to be successful, and for the Bears to be prominent once again. We need the Bears to be good. Football needs it. Frankly, the NFC needs and could use some more elite teams, some more fun teams, some more good quarterback play. The disparity between the AFC and the NFC, the disproportionality of good quarterbacks in the AFC and the NFC is so, it's so off. The balance is off. I'm rooting for Caleb Williams. I want him to be good, and it's a good first step to give him weapons on the offensive line. Okay. We had a lot of news out of the New York Jets yesterday. We spoke on yesterday's show about how Davante Adams is going to be released. That was made official yesterday. The Jets officially released Davante Adams. Fans were up in arms that they weren't able to get to even trade him, get anything back for him. Why couldn't they keep him? I think that it's best for the Jets to move on from anything Aaron Rodgers related. I think it's best for this coaching staff to have a clean slate. The reason why is because if they kept the players, if they kept Rodgers and his crew around, or if they just kept some of his crew around, and it didn't work, you're talking about a situation where they could already be on the hot seat one season in. I need you to close your eyes and imagine for a second that they had a below average to bad season again if they ran it back with Rodgers. Close your eyes and just imagine what that looks like at the end of next season. You're telling me Aaron Glenn's not at least being discussed as possibly, on the hot seat? Because they'd obviously get rid of Rodgers. They'd be done with Rodgers and whoever is left after that. You don't think there'd be some sort of bad blood had they just kept Davante Adams around and he was unproductive and moping on the sidelines? This coaching staff wants no remnants of the failure that was the Aaron Rodgers experiment. They want zero remnants. Nothing. They want nothing to derail what is a mini rebuild offensively. Nothing. Because again, if they run it back and it doesn't work out, and there's bad attitude, it could derail a first season, and I think, frankly, putting myself in those shoes puts them potentially on the hot seat after 1 year. Whereas if they add a whole new slate of players, there's more wiggle room to say we need more time to figure it out with these guys. And so I think this was the right move. I think that they need to clear themselves of any reminders of Aaron Rodgers. And speaking of that, Adam Schefter tweeted, Jets have given permission to veteran wide receiver Alan Lazard to seek a trade. Per sources, Jets also are open to bringing him back to the team. I find that interesting. Look, whoever the quarterback is for the New York Jets in 2025, he will need weapons. I don't think it would have been a good situation with Davante Adams. But he'll still need weapons. So leaving the door open for Alan Lazard, someone who's not as significantly tied at the hip to Aaron Rodgers, I think that's fine. If it was me, I'm just getting rid of him. He's gone. Anything that reminds me of Aaron Rodgers should be gone. And this is another wide receiver on the market for teams looking for wide receivers. That is one more with Davante and possibly two more with Allen Lazard. I am pro the Jets starting this thing fresh. And now we have, if Allen Lazard decides to leave, we have another piece that could decide to follow Aaron Rodgers wherever he goes. So we could have the trio of Rodgers, Davante Adams, and Allen Lazard on the move to the same destination. Okay, let's move on. I teased it earlier. There was Kyrie Irving news yesterday. Shams tweeted, breaking Dallas Mavericks all-star Kyrie Irving has suffered a season-ending torn ACL in his knee, sources tell ESPN. Prior to Monday, Irving had averaged 39.3 minutes over the last 10 games, stretch that began right before the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade, and he played most in the NBA from February 4th to March 2nd. Irving had also played 37 or more minutes in 9 of his last 10 entering Monday. Man, every single day something is going wrong for the Dallas Mavericks. Every single day. It gets worse and worse and worse and worse. It has gotten to a point now where I'm officially fading Nico Harrison. I am fading him. I think the Mavs did a marvelous job with the Luka Doncic trade. He is playing chess, Nico Harrison, while we are playing checkers. Has to be. There is something we're missing here. I am now, after this Kyrie Irving injury, I am fully on the Mavericks bandwagon. I think they won the trade. They are better off without Luka. Please leave in the comments any sort of spin zone I can use when defending the Dallas Mavericks. I want to get out in front of everybody crawling back to the Dallas Mavericks when inevitably it works out for them. There's just way too much going wrong right now that it has to turn around, and it has to turn around big. It has to. Man, Nico Harrison he's got to be one of the most hated GMs of all time. Over this last 2 weeks span, 2 weeks, how long has it even been? 4 weeks? Month? Since the Luka Doncic trade, he has to be one of the most hated GMs in sports history. It has gone all wrong, none right. I might have become a Nico Harrison supporter. I might be a Nico Harrison apologist, frankly. Yeah. I'm officially, I'd like to put word out, I'm a Nico Harrison apologist. And I'm fading the Mavs haters. Officially. Okay, let's move on. We got one last thing here. We're going to move on to baseball. I feel like over the next couple of days and weeks, we're going to have daily segments about injury updates. And today we have an injury update with the Texas Rangers. Adolis Garcia, two-time All-Star outfielder for the Texas Rangers. He's going to undergo an MRI after feeling pain in his left oblique. And so we're starting to see the injuries sort of come down the pike here. And the Rangers won the World Series in 2023, missed the playoffs in 2024. Very disappointing season. They have a little bit of a shakeup here. Max Scherzer obviously gone. They added Jock Peterson. And so the Rangers are now going to, after their postseason hangover, World Series hangover, they're going to try to run it back. But Adolis Garcia, one of their best hitters, going down this early on is not great. It's not great. Hopefully the addition of Jock Peterson can add a little more stability to the lineup. But if they want to get back into the postseason, they're going to need a few things to go right. They'll need Adolis Garcia healthy, but I think more importantly, they're going to need Jacob deGrom to get back to his old form and to pitch a full season, or at least pitch well enough to get them to the postseason, stay healthy enough to get them to the postseason, and actually be healthy come playoff time. It's crazy to me that DeGrom has a ring, but barely did anything. And look, I love the guy. Pretty much a high school hero for me. Man, I wish that ended differently with the Mets. But maybe I'll get into that another time. Okay, that's the show. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, follow on X, follow on Spotify. This is the Early Game Podcast. Have a wonderful day.